My name is Madeline Farrow. I'm 32 years old. 3 weeks ago, at my sister's engagement party, a security guard looked me in the eye and told me to walk around to the service entrance because my family put my name on a list. My parents stood 10 feet away, behind the glass doors, champagne in hand. My mother saw me. She turned her back. I stood there in a dress I'd bought special for the occasion, holding a bottle of wine from a local vineyard as a gift. And the guard, polite, professional, just doing his job, pointed me toward the loading dock where the catering trucks park. Here's the thing they didn't know. None of them knew. The ground they were dancing on that night? It belongs to my husband's family. And in 3 hours, the party was over. Not because I made a phone call. I didn't have to. Before I take you back to the beginning, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy the story. And drop a comment with your location and local time. I always love knowing where you're listening from. Now, let me take you back 5 years, to the day I told my parents I was leaving Portland. 5 years ago, I'm sitting in a marketing agency in downtown Portland, staring at a screen full of metrics I don't care about, eating lunch at my desk for the third straight week. I'm 27. I'm exhausted. My skin is gray. I haven't called my mom in 2 weeks, and she hasn't noticed. A client contract sends me to a trade show in Cedar Hollow, a small town in the valley, population 4,000, the kind of place where people wave at strangers from their trucks. And I stop at the Saturday farmers market to kill time before my afternoon meeting. That's where I see him, Ethan Farrow, tall, quiet, sunburned at the neck, handing a woman a box of heirloom tomatoes like they're something precious. We talk for 20 minutes, then 40. I miss my meeting. 3 months later, I quit my job and moved to Cedar Hollow. My father calls that same night. His voice is flat and cold. "You're throwing away everything we invested in you." My mother gets on the extension. "Can you at least not tell anyone at church?" I tell them I'm happy. They tell me I'm confused. Ethan and I marry the following spring. A small ceremony at the farm, wildflowers on every table, his father George reading a poem he wrote himself. 60 people come. My parents are not among them. But my mother's excuse. "Your father has a dealer conference that weekend." My father runs a car dealership 2 hours north. I check the conference schedule online. The conference is the following week. I save the screenshot. Not as evidence. Just as proof to myself that I'm not imagining things. That they chose not to come. That the absence is deliberate. I don't confront them. I tell myself they'll come around. That they just need time. Time passes. What changes isn't my parents' opinion of me. It's the gap between how they treat me and how they treat Tessa. Tessa is my younger sister, 28 now. She works as a junior event coordinator at a PR firm in the city. 2 years ago, she starts dating Derek Sullivan, a financial analyst, clean shoes, firm handshake, the kind of man my father calls a serious person. Within months, then the family dynamic shifts entirely. Dad buys Tessa a new car, a white sedan. For client meetings, he says. Mom starts posting photos of them at restaurants. Tessa and Derek at a wine bar. Tessa and Derek at a charity gala. The captions always say the same thing. "So proud of my girl." I scroll through 3 years of my mother's social media one evening. There is not a single photo of me. Not one. When I send her a picture of the farm during harvest, golden light, rows of squash, Ethan on the tractor, she replies with one word. Cute. Then comes Thanksgiving. We drive up for dinner. My father's friend Bill is there. Richard, my father, introduces Tessa with his arm around her shoulder. "This is Tessa, my daughter. She's in PR, just landed a huge account." I'm standing right there, 3 feet away. I clear my throat. I'm here too, Dad." He glances at me, doesn't move his arm. "Yeah, she married a farmer out in Cedar Hollow." That's it. That's the introduction. Like a footnote, like a weather report. Bill nods politely. Tessa smiles. My mother sips her wine. On the drive home, Ethan holds my hand across the center console and says nothing. He doesn't need to. We both heard it. I start to wonder, if that's how Dad introduces me when I'm standing right there, what does he say when I'm not? The invitation comes on a Tuesday. Tessa calls. No pleasantries, no how are you. Just this. Mom says I have to invite you. So, you're invited. It's at the Larkspur Hotel. Saturday, 7 p.m. I hold the phone away from my ear and look at Ethan across the kitchen. He's leaning against the counter, arms crossed, reading my face. Do you want to go? He asks after I hang up. I don't know. Then let me ask it differently. Do you think anything will be different this time? I don't answer right away. I pour myself water, sit down. Think about my mother's back turning at a Thanksgiving table. Think about one-word texts and missing wedding photos and a father who introduces me like an afterthought. But I also think about Tessa at age 9, crawling into my bed during thunderstorms. Tessa at 14, asking me to teach her how to braid hair. Somewhere underneath all this, there's a sister I used to know. I'll go, I say. But I'll go alone. If it goes bad, I don't want you sitting in a room full of people who think you're not enough. Ethan nods. He doesn't argue. I'm not going to watch them hurt you again, Maddie. But it's your call. I buy a new dress. Navy blue, simple, nothing flashy. I pick up a bottle of wine from the vineyard down the road. A nice label. Something thoughtful. Saturday comes. I drive the 40 minutes to Larkspur Hotel as the sun drops behind the hills. The building is beautiful. Stone and timber, warm light pouring through tall windows. I've seen it 100 times. I know this place well. I park, take a breath, smooth my dress, and walk toward the front entrance. I never make it through the door. The security guard is young, polite. He holds a clipboard and steps forward as I reach the entrance. Ma'am, can I get your name? Madeline Farrow. He scans the list, pauses, flips a page. His expression tightens, not rude, just uncomfortable. Ma'am, I have instructions here. Your name is on a separate list. You'll need to use the service entrance, around the back. I stand still. There must be a mistake. My sister is the one having the party. He shifts his weight. I'm sorry, ma'am. Ms. Mercer was very specific. She said you'd know why. The lobby glows behind the glass doors. I can see white tablecloths, floral arrangements, a champagne tower catching the light. I can hear laughter, low, warm, the kind that belongs to a celebration where everyone feels welcome. And then I see my mother, Diane Mercer, 59 years old, standing near the entrance in a cream-colored dress, holding a glass of champagne, laughing with a woman I don't recognize. She turns slightly, and she sees me, through the glass, standing on the wrong side of the door. Our eyes meet. She holds my gaze for exactly 2 seconds. Then she turns, slowly, yet deliberately, like I'm a stranger asking for direction she doesn't have. I feel the air leave my lungs. The guard clears his throat. The service entrance is around the left side, ma'am. Past the dumpsters. Past the dumpsters. I look at the bottle of wine in my hand. The nice label. The thoughtful gift. I look at the glass doors. At my mother's back. At the party full of people I grew up with, celebrating a sister who put my name on a list. I don't go to the service entrance. I turn around and walk back to my car. I sit in my car with the engine off. My hands are shaking. The wine bottle is still in the passenger seat. The parking lot is full. BMWs, SUVs, a few town cars. Everyone made it inside. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Lisa. Lisa Harmon, one of my oldest friends from high school, now living 2 towns over. Maddie, check your email, right now. I open it. Lisa has forwarded me something. An email, sent by Tessa, to the entire guest list. 80 names. The subject line reads, "A note about tonight." I read it once, then again. Just a heads up, my sister Madeline may try to show up tonight. She's been going through some personal difficulties, and we thought it best she not attend to avoid any disruptions. Please don't engage if you see her. Personal difficulties. I read those 2 words 5 times. My sister told 80 people, friends, colleagues, people from our hometown, that I have mental health problems, that I'm unstable, that I'm the kind of person who causes disruptions. This isn't favoritism. This isn't being overlooked or sidelined or quietly excluded. This is my sister publicly framing me as damaged so no one questions why I'm not in the room. If I do nothing, this email becomes the story. Every person on that list will carry it home. Oh, Madeline. Yeah, she's struggling. Sad, really. I call Ethan. My voice is steady, barely. I'm coming home, but you should know what they did. I read him the email. He's quiet for a long time, then he says, "Hold on, Maddie." His voice gets distant. I hear him say something I can't quite make out. Then a deeper voice, George, his father, asks, "What did they do to her?" Ethan puts me on speaker. I'm still sitting in the parking lot when George's voice comes through the speaker. Low, measured. The way he sounds when a storm is moving in and the livestock need to be moved. "Madeline, tell me exactly what happened." From the beginning. So I do. The guard, the clipboard, the separate list, the service entrance past the dumpsters, my mother turning away, the email. George doesn't interrupt. When I finish, the line is quiet for 5 full seconds. "Maddie, sweetheart, come home. I'm going to make a phone call." "George, please don't make a scene because of me." "This isn't about making a scene, Madeline. This is about my land and what happens on it." I blink. My hand stops shaking. "What do you mean, your land?" "Come home. Ethan will explain. Drive safe." The call ends. I stare at the Larkspur Hotel through my windshield. The warm lights, the stone walls, the manicured hedges. I've driven past this place 1,000 times. Ethan and I buy produce from the restaurant's kitchen manager every week. I know the loading dock, the herb garden, at the parking lot where the staff smokes cigarettes on break. But I've never thought about who owns the dirt underneath all of it. I start the engine and pull out of the lot. Later, much later, I'll learn that George didn't call the hotel first. He called Tom Hensley, the attorney who's handled the Farrow family's contracts for 20 years. George is a man who built 400 acres into one of the most respected operations in the county. He doesn't move on emotion. He moves on paperwork. I'm halfway home when Ethan's phone rings again, but this time it's not me calling, it's the hotel. Ruth Calloway has managed the Larkspur Hotel for 15 years. She grew up in Cedar Hollow. Her grandmother and George's mother used to can peaches together every August. When Ruth calls Ethan, her voice is tight. "Ethan, I just reviewed the security log for tonight. Someone named Farrow was redirected to the service entrance. Please tell me that wasn't Madeline." It was. Silence. 5 seconds. 10. The Mercer family booked the grand ballroom. They submitted a guest management list. Your wife's name was on it, flagged under "Do not admit through main entrance." I didn't see it until 20 minutes ago. One of our newer staff processed it. "Ethan, I am so sorry." Ethan's jaw is tight. I can see it even from across the kitchen when I walk in, still in my navy dress, still holding the wine bottle I never got to give. Ruth, she was sent to the back door, past the dumpsters, while her own mother stood inside watching. Ruth exhales. "I know, I pulled the camera footage. And? And Mrs. Mercer was visible through the lobby glass. Facing the entrance, there's no question she saw your wife." Ethan sets the phone on the counter. George is sitting at the table, reading glasses on, a legal pad in front of him with Tom Hensley's number circled at the top. "Ruth," George says, loud enough for the speakerphone, "you know my family. You know what that hotel sits on." "Yes, sir, I do." "Then you understand this isn't a complaint. This is a notification." Ruth is quiet for a moment. "Mr. Farrow, I would have flagged this myself if I'd caught it in time. I want you to know that." "I believe you," George says. "But it happened. On my ground." He clicks his pen. Tom Hensley calls back within the hour. He's been the Farrow family's attorney since before Ethan was born. A calm, deliberate man who speaks in paragraphs and never raises his voice. "George, and I reviewed the ground lease. Section 14. Conduct clause. Standard language. The lessee agrees not to permit or engage in any activity on the premises that is discriminatory in nature or that causes material harm to the reputation of the lessor or the lessor's family. George leans forward. Tom, my daughter-in-law was publicly turned away at the front door of a building that sits on my property. Because of her last name. My last name. That's a material breach, George. You have grounds to issue formal notice, tonight if you want. I'm sitting across from George. Ethan stands behind me, his hand on the back of my chair. The kitchen smells like coffee and old wood. The clock above the stove reads 9:47 p.m. Inside the Larkspur Hotel, the party is still going. George takes off his reading glasses, folds them, sets them on the legal pad. Then he looks at me. Maddie, this is your call, not mine. George, I don't want to ruin a party. You're not ruining anything. They ruined it the moment they put your name on that list. I think about the email. 80 people reading the words personal difficulties. I think about Mrs. Patterson, who taught my Sunday school class when I was 7, reading that email and believing it. I think about my name, Pharaoh, being dragged through the service entrance of my father-in-law's own land. I look at George, then at Ethan. I don't want to make a scene, but I won't be called unstable in front of 80 people and say nothing. George picks up his phone. Tom, send the notice. Let me back up for a moment. Because there's something about the Larkspur Hotel that my parents never bothered to learn. 12 years ago, a developer from Portland wanted to build a boutique hotel in Cedar Hollow, the kind of place that magazines write about: stone walls, farm-to-table dining, views of the valley. He needed land, flat, scenic, accessible from the highway. The only parcel that checked every box belonged to the Pharaoh family. George agreed to a long-term ground lease. 30 years, with a review clause every 5 years. The developer builds the hotel, runs the business, pays George a monthly lease. But the land stays Pharaoh. Always has, always will. The lease doesn't just allow a review, it requires one. And the next review window opens in 2 months. There's more. The hotel's crown jewel is a fine dining restaurant called the Harvest Table. 4.8 stars on Google. Featured in 3 regional food magazines. The entire concept, every menu, every press release, every Instagram post, is built around one idea. Locally sourced, farm to table, grown within 10 miles. And where does the produce come from? Pharaoh Family Farm. Ethan's operation. My operation. The heirloom tomatoes, the squash, the pastured eggs, the beef. We deliver 3 times a week. The head chef, a man named Danny Kowalski, has our farm logo tattooed on his forearm. That's how deep the partnership runs. If the Pharaohs pull the supply contract, the Harvest Table loses its identity. If the Pharaohs decline the lease renewal, the hotel loses its foundation. I didn't think about any of this when I married Ethan. I married him because he handed me a box of tomatoes like they were something worth protecting. But now I understand why George said what he said. This is about my land. It is. And the night settles over the farm. Crickets. A breeze through the screen door. I'm sitting on the front porch with a mug of chamomile, still in my dress, still replaying my mother's face through the glass. Ethan brings out a blanket and drapes it over my shoulders without asking. He sits beside me. We don't speak for a long time. Footsteps on gravel. Martha Bellingham, 74 years old, lives a quarter mile down the road, has brought us zucchini bread every September for 4 years. Appears at the edge of the porch light. Maddie, I saw your car pull in fast earlier. You look upset, sweetheart. Everything okay? I almost say, I'm fine. The reflex is that strong. But tonight, I can't. Family stuff, Martha. She nods slowly, steps up onto the porch, pats my knee. You're a pharaoh now, honey. And pharaohs don't walk through back doors. I don't know how she knows. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe it's just something grandmothers say. But the words crack something open in my chest, and I cry for the first time all night. Not loud, just tears, rolling silent. Ethan puts his arm around me. Martha squeezes my hand and walks home. Inside the house, my phone sits on the kitchen counter, screen dark. I don't check it until the next morning. When I do, there are 43 notifications. Lisa Harmon, the friend who forwarded me the email, has posted something on Facebook. Short and sharp. Just learned something disgusting about how a friend of mine was treated tonight. If you were at the Larkspur party, ask the Mercers about their guest list. By midnight, the post has over 200 shares. I don't know this yet. I'm on the porch. I'm drinking tea, watching the stars come out over the field. Everything I'm about to tell you I learned afterward. From Lisa, from other guests, from Ruth Calloway's incident report. Inside the Larkspur Grand Ballroom, the engagement party is reaching its peak. The champagne tower glitters. A jazz quartet plays something soft. 80 guests are seated at round tables draped in ivory linen. Everything is beautiful. Everything is expensive. Everything is a lie. Tessa takes the microphone on the small stage. She's glowing. A white cocktail dress, diamond earrings Derek gave her that morning, a smile wide enough to fill the room. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, she says. I'm so grateful to have my family around me. The people who truly matter. The people who truly matter. Let that land for a second. Richard stands next, raises his glass. His voice carries that car salesman warmth he spent 30 years perfecting. To my daughter, the one who made us proud. The one. Singular. As though he fathered exactly one child. At a corner table, Diane is talking to an older woman. Someone from church, maybe. Her voice is low, but Lisa is sitting close enough to catch the words. Madeline couldn't make it. She's been going through a phase. You know how it is with those small-town marriages. The woman nods politely. Others at the table glance at each other. A few have already read the email. They say nothing. Derek, tall, quiet, still wearing his suit jacket, even though the room is warm, leans toward Tessa between toasts. Where's your sister? I thought she was coming. Tessa doesn't miss a beat. She didn't want to come. She never really fits in at these things. Derek frowns, looks at the empty chair at the family table, says nothing. But he noticed. It starts with phones. One by one, guests at the far tables begin glancing down at their laps. A quiet buzz, a screen lighting up, thumbs scrolling. Lisa's Facebook post is moving fast, and half the guest list follows Lisa, because they all went to the same high school. At table 6, a woman named Mrs. Patterson, retired schoolteacher, longtime family friend of the Mercers, reads the post twice. Her lips press together. She sets down her champagne glass and walks over to Diane. Diane, is it true? Was Madeline turned away at the door tonight? Diane's smile freezes. I don't know what you're talking about. She chose not to come. That's not what I'm hearing, Mrs. Patterson tilts her phone screen toward Diane. People are saying your daughter was sent to the service entrance, by name. Diane's face drains of color, her fingers tighten around the stem of her glass. That's ridiculous. People exaggerate on the internet. Lisa Harmon doesn't exaggerate, Diane. She's a public defender. Across the ballroom, Tessa notices the shift. Small clusters of guests are murmuring. A few are openly looking at their phones, then looking at the Mercer's table. The energy in the room has changed. A dropped frequency, like a song going from major to minor. Tessa grabs her mother's elbow. What is happening? Nothing. Some Facebook drama. It'll blow over. But it doesn't blow over. Because upstairs in the hotel's management office, Ruth Calloway is sitting at her desk reading a very different kind of message, a formal notice from the law office of Thomas Hensley, on behalf of George W. Farrow, regarding a material breach of the Larkspur Hotel's ground lease agreement. Ruth sets the phone down, stands up, straightens her jacket, and walks directly into the ballroom. Ruth Calloway moves through the ballroom the way a surgeon walks into an operating room, steady, composed, no wasted motion. The jazz quartet is playing something by Cole Porter. Guests are mid-conversation. Champagne is still flowing. Ruth stops at the Mercer's table. She doesn't sit. She clasps her hands in front of her and speaks quietly. But in a room full of people leaning in, quietly is loud enough. Mr. and Mrs. Mercer, I need to speak with you privately. Bet immediately. Richard leans back in his chair. We're in the middle of a party. Whatever it is can wait. No, sir, it cannot. Tessa appears from behind Diane's chair, face flushed. This is my engagement party. Whatever this is, handle it later. Ruth turns to face her directly. Ms. Mercer, did you instruct my staff to redirect a guest named Madeline Farrow to the service entrance? The table goes silent. 6 guests within earshot stop mid-sentence. She's not a guest, Tessa says. She's my sister. I can decide. Ma'am. Ruth's voice doesn't rise. It sharpens. Madeline Farrow is the daughter-in-law of George Farrow, the man who owns the land this building sits on. Nobody speaks. The words hang in the air like smoke. Richard's glass stops halfway to his mouth. Diane's hand goes to her throat. At the next table, Mrs. Patterson sets her napkin down and watches. Derek stands. He's been silent this whole time. His voice is low but clear. You put your sister on a banned list? You told me she didn't want to come. Tessa spins toward Diane. Her voice cracks. You knew? You knew who her father-in-law was? Diane's mouth opens, closes, opens again. I didn't think it mattered. The jazz quartet finishes their song. No one claps. Okay. I need to pause here for a second, because right now, at this point in the story, I'm sitting on the porch at George's house, holding a cup of chamomile tea, and I have no idea any of this is happening inside the Larkspur Hotel. All I know is that my mother saw me through the glass and turned away. So here's my question for you. If you found out your sister sent an email to 80 people saying you had personal difficulties, would you still want a relationship with her? Tell me in the comments. Ruth leads the Mercers into a small conference room off the lobby. Diane, Richard, Tessa. Derek follows without being asked. Ruth closes the door. Doesn't sit. I'll be direct. The Farrow family's attorney has sent formal notice to this hotel. Your event has violated the conduct clause of our ground lease. Section 14. George Farrow, the landowner, has the right to demand immediate termination of any event on this property that causes harm to his family's reputation. Richard slams his palm on the table. This is absurd. We paid $12,000 for this room. You paid for the room, Mr. Mercer. You didn't pay for the land under it, and Mr. Farrow has instructed us to end this event. You can't cancel my engagement party! Tessa's voice is high, brittle. Ruth turns to her. Her tone doesn't change. Ms. Mercer, you gave my staff a written instruction to redirect your own sister, a member of the Farrow family, to the service entrance, the entrance we use for deliveries and waste removal, on Farrow land. She pauses. I've managed this hotel for 15 years. I have never been asked to humiliate a guest at their own family's party. I would have stopped this myself even if Mr. Farrow hadn't called. Tessa opens her mouth. Nothing comes out. Derek steps forward. His face is unreadable, but his voice is sharp and precise. Tessa, you told me Madeline didn't want to come. But you told me she never fits in. Were you lying to me the entire time? Tessa turns to Diane. Her composure finally breaks. This was your idea. You told me she'd embarrass us. You said handle it. Diane goes white. Tessa, lower your voice. No, you don't get to pretend this was all me. Ruth steps back. She's heard enough. I'll give you 15 minutes. Then the ballroom needs to be cleared. I'm standing at the kitchen sink, rinsing my mug, when the phone rings. Mom. I dry my hands. Pick up. The screaming starts before I can say hello. The hotel is canceling everything. They're kicking us out. The whole party. Done. What did you do? I hold the phone an inch from my ear. Ethan looks at me from across the room. I take a slow breath. I didn't do anything, Mom. I went home. Don't you lie to me, Madeline. You called someone. You always have to ruin everything. I didn't call the hotel. I didn't call anyone at the hotel. I keep my voice level. You know what I did tonight? I drove home. I sat on the porch. I drank tea. Then how? Because the hotel sits on Faro land, Mom. George's land. The Faro family has held that property for 4 generations, and George doesn't allow his family to be treated like service workers on his own ground. Silence. You would know this, I continue, if you had ever, even once, shown any interest in who my husband's family is. If you'd come to my wedding. If you'd visited the farm. If you'd asked a single question in 5 years. More silence. I hear her breathing. I hear the party noise behind her. But it's different now. Muffled. Winding down. Madeline. Her voice drops. The rage is gone, but replaced by something thinner. Panic. You need to fix this. I look out the kitchen window. The porch light throws a gold square onto the grass. Beyond it, the fields stretch dark and quiet. No, Mom, I really don't. I hang up. Set the phone on the counter, face down. Ethan crosses the kitchen and wraps his arms around me. I let him. I close my eyes. I don't cry. Back at the Larkspur, the ballroom is emptying. Guests file out in small clusters, whispering, glancing at their phones. The champagne tower stands half-finished. The floral centerpieces are wilting under the lights. The jazz quartet packed up 10 minutes ago. In the conference room, Derek is standing by the window. Tessa is crying. Diane is sitting rigid in a chair, staring at the wall. Richard is pacing. Derek turns around. His voice is quiet, but which is worse than shouting. Tessa, I need you to answer one question. Did you send an email to every guest tonight telling them Madeline has mental health problems? Tessa wipes her eyes. I said personal difficulties. That's not the same. Did you send it? Yes. Is any of it true? She is difficult. That's not what I asked. Tessa's mouth trembles. She looks at Diane. Diane says nothing, offers nothing. The woman who whispered, "Handle it," has nothing left. Derek picks up his jacket from the back of a chair. I need to think about whether I know who I'm marrying. Derek, please. You lied to me. You lied to everyone in that room. You humiliated your own sister and you lied about it to my face. He buttons his jacket. One button. Slow. I need space. He walks out. Tessa whips around to Diane. This is all Madeline's fault. She always ruins everything. Diane is quiet for a long time. When she speaks, her voice sounds 10 years older. Tessa, maybe we went too far. Too far? You're the one who told me she'd embarrass us. You said handle it. Diane closes her eyes. I know what I said. Richard stops pacing, looks at his wife, at his youngest daughter, at the empty chair where Derek was sitting. Nobody speaks. Sunday morning. The kitchen at the Faro house smells like coffee and bacon. Sunlight cuts through the window above the sink. George is already seated at the table when Ethan and I come down. Legal pad out, reading glasses on, a mug of black coffee at his elbow. He waits until we sit. I've made a decision, he says. The ground lease review comes up in 2 months. I'm not renewing. I'll give the hotel proper notice. 30 days, like the contract requires. Ethan leans forward. Dad, that's the hotel's livelihood. A lot of people work there. The hotel can find new land, or they can negotiate a new lease with whoever I sell the parcel to. The staff will be fine. Ruth's a good manager. She'll land on her feet. He takes a sip of coffee. But the supply contract ends when the lease does. I won't have our name on their menus after this. I set my fork down. George, I don't want people to lose their jobs because of me. He looks at me over his glasses. His eyes are steady, the same look he gave that legal pad last night. Firm. Clear. Nobody's losing a job, Maddie. The hotel will keep operating through the transition. But the Mercer family will not be booking events there again. Ruth told me that herself. Her decision, not mine. He folds his hands on the table. My son married a good woman. That woman was turned away at the front door of my property and told to walk past dumpsters. Her own family called her unstable in front of 80 people. His voice stays low, doesn't waver. The hotel can find new land. You can't find new dignity. Not after something like that. The kitchen is quiet. Ethan reaches under the table and squeezes my hand. George picks up his coffee. Now eat your breakfast. Monday afternoon. I sit at the kitchen table with my phone in front of me for 20 minutes before I dial. Not because I'm scared, because I want to get the words right. It rings twice. Diane picks up. Madeline. Mom, put Dad on the phone too. Speaker. A pause. A click. Richard's voice. We're here. Good. And I need you to hear me clearly. I am not fixing the hotel situation. I am not apologizing for being married to Ethan, and I'm done accepting being treated like a family embarrassment. Richard's voice cuts in. You're overreacting. It was a party. Dad. Tessa sent an email to 80 people telling them I have mental health problems. That's not a party. That's defamation. Diane. She didn't mean it like... Then what did she mean, Mom? Because I have the email. So do 80 other people. And so does Lisa Harmon, who is a public defender, in case you were wondering how fast that post moved. Dead air. I let it sit. Here's what happens next. Tessa sends a retraction to every person on that list. She tells the truth. That she lied. That I don't have any personal difficulties. That she made a choice to exclude me and fabricated a reason. Both of you stop pretending you have one daughter. When you introduce me, you say my name. Both words. My daughter Madeline. Richard. Madeline, come on. If you can do those things, we can talk. If you can't, we're done. Not because I want to lose you. Because I refuse to keep pretending this is normal. Silence. I hear my mother's breath catch. I love you both. But I love myself too. And I'm not going to apologize for that anymore. I hang up before they can respond. My hands are shaking, but my voice wasn't. That's enough. The next week is chaos, but not mine. My chaos is over. I'm back on the farm. Deliveries, market prep, morning chores, the kind of routine that holds you together when everything else is shaking loose. Tessa's world. Though Tessa's world is falling apart. Derek doesn't cancel the engagement. He says he needs time, moves in with a college friend across town, stops answering Tessa's calls for 3 days straight. Tessa spirals. She calls me 14 times between Monday and Thursday. I don't pick up. Her messages shift by the hour, begging at noon, threatening by dinner, weeping at midnight. You ruined my life. Then, please, Maddie, I need you. Then, I swear to God, if you don't fix this. I don't respond. There's nothing I can say that would help, and nothing she's ready to hear. At Tessa's PR firm, things tighten. Lisa's Facebook post has made the rounds, and in a world of marketing and brand management, your personal judgment is your professional currency. Tessa's supervisor calls her into a closed-door meeting. As I don't know the exact words, but I know the outcome. Tessa is placed on a performance review and removed from 2 client accounts. By Wednesday, Tessa calls Diane. I learn about this call weeks later. Tessa tells me herself, eventually. And here's the part that guts me. This is your fault, Tessa screams at Diane. You told me she'd embarrass us. You said handle it. I handled it. And Diane, the woman who whispered the instruction, who turned her back at the glass door, who sat silent while her youngest daughter did the dirty work, says, I never told you to send that email, Tessa. Tessa hangs up. She sits in her apartment alone. That's the moment, she tells me later, when she realizes she has no one. Richard tries the direct approach. It's the only move he knows. Face-to-face, firm handshake, eye contact. I close the deal. He drives 2 hours to Cedar Hollow on a Thursday morning and shows up at George Farrow's front door without calling ahead. He's wearing slacks and a sports coat. He brought nothing. George opens the door, screen door between them. He looks at Richard for a long moment. Not angry, not hostile, just measuring. Mr. Mercer. George, I think we should talk, man to man. George doesn't open the screen. Mr. Mercer, you stood 10 feet from my daughter-in-law while she was sent to the service entrance. You watched your wife turn away from her through the glass. You raised a toast that night calling your other daughter the one who made you proud. And you did nothing. Richard opens his mouth. We have nothing to discuss. George closes the door. Not slammed, just closed. Firm and final, like the last page of a book. Richard stands on the porch for a full minute. Then he walks to his car and drives home. That night, according to Diane, who tells me this months later, Richard doesn't speak at dinner. Not a word. He eats. He clears his plate. He sits in his recliner and stares at the television without turning it on. Diane finally asks, "What happened?" He shut the door in my face. Diane sits down across from him, and then she says the most honest thing she's said in 5 years. Well, now you know how Madeline felt. Richard looks at her. She looks back. Neither of them speaks after that. I don't know about this moment until much later, but I think about it often, because it tells me something important. They know. They've always known. They just chose not to care, until it cost them something. Cedar Hollow talks. And not because anyone orchestrates it. There's no campaign, no vendetta. It's just a small town. People know each other's business, and a pharaoh being turned away at the back door of a pharaoh-owned property is the kind of story that travels faster than weather. At the Saturday farmers market, the week after the party, something shifts. Normally, our stand does steady business, regulars, a few tourists, the restaurant buyers. This Saturday, the line is longer than I've ever seen it. People aren't just buying squash. They're buying a statement. Martha Bellingham arrives early with a box. She sets it on the table next to the cash register. Inside, a dozen cinnamon rolls, still warm, with a card taped to the lid. For the girl who walks through front doors. I laugh. Then I tear up. Then I sell out of tomatoes by 10 a.m. And others stop by who don't usually come. A teacher from the middle school, the guy who runs the hardware store, a retired couple I've never met who shake my hand and say, "We heard about what happened. Glad you married into a good family." Not everyone is kind. Richard's dealership starts getting strange Google reviews. 1 star. Great cars, terrible father. Another. Sells sedans, disowns daughters. When I see them, I post on our farm's Facebook page. Please don't leave reviews about my family situation on anyone's business. This is between us. Thank you. The reviews slow down. Some are taken down, but the damage is noted. Ruth Calloway calls me personally on Monday. Her voice is warm, professional, a little tired. Madeline, on behalf of the hotel, I want to apologize. What happened on our property was unacceptable. We've reviewed our entire guest management process. Ruth, it wasn't your fault. Thank you for doing the right thing. You would have done the same. Maybe. But she's the one who actually did it. 3 weeks after the party. My phone rings on a Tuesday evening. Tessa. I almost don't answer. But something about the timing, a Tuesday, early evening, the kind of hour you call when you've been thinking all day and finally ran out of excuses, makes me pick up. Her voice is different, stripped down. No anger, no performance, just tired. Madeline, I sent the retraction to everyone on the list. I told them the truth, that I lied, that you don't have any issues, that I was the one who was wrong. I close my eyes. Thank you, Tessa. Quiet. Derek said he'll consider coming back if I get professional help. I started seeing a therapist last week. Her name is Dr. Kim. She's making me look at things I don't want to look at. I'm glad. I really am. Madeline, Her voice catches. I know this doesn't fix things. I know one phone call doesn't erase what I did. It doesn't. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. I know. More quiet. But it's a different kind of quiet now. Not hostile, not cold. more like the space between two people standing at opposite ends of a long hallway, trying to figure out if there's a reason to walk toward each other. I miss you, Tessa says, barely a whisper. I miss when we were kids, and none of this mattered. My throat tightens. I remember thunder and a small body curled against mine under a quilt. I remember teaching her to braid. I remember who she was before all this. I miss that too. But I don't open the door all the way. Not yet. When you're ready, really ready, Tessa, not just scared, you know my number. Okay. I hang up. The field outside is turning gold. The letter arrives on a Thursday. Handwritten. My father's handwriting. Tight, slanted, the penmanship of a man who signs contracts all day but rarely writes anything personal. One page. No envelope from the dealership. Just a plain white envelope. My name and address in ink. Madeline. I should have said something at that door. I didn't. I don't have an excuse. Your mother and I would like to visit the farm, if you'll have us. Dad. I read it 4 times. I put it in the kitchen drawer. I wait 2 weeks before I respond. When I do, I keep it simple. Dad, you can visit, but here are the terms. That you don't criticize Ethan or his work, you don't compare me to Tessa, and when you introduce me to anyone, you say, my daughter Madeline. Both words. If you can do that, come any Saturday. He writes back. Okay. They come on a Saturday in October. It's awkward. Richard shakes Ethan's hand too hard and compliments the barn like a man who's never seen one. Diane stands in the kitchen doorway and looks around at the herbs on the windowsill, the cast iron pan on the stove, the photos on the fridge, Ethan and me at the market, George and Martha at last year's harvest dinner. Richard holds a chicken for the first time. It pecks his watch. Ethan doesn't laugh, but his eyes do. George invites Richard to sit on the porch. They drink tea. George is polite, not warm, but polite. They talk about the weather. About the highway construction. About nothing that matters and everything that does. When they leave, Diane hugs me at the car. She doesn't say anything, but she holds on longer than she's held me since I was a child. It's not forgiveness. It's not resolution. It's a door, cracked open. That's enough for now. Evening. The porch. The same porch where I cried into a cup of tea 3 weeks ago. Ethan sits beside me. The fields in front of us are gold and copper in the late light, the kind of color you can't photograph. You just have to be there. He hands me a glass of cider from the press we ran last weekend. Our apples, our land, our life. People keep asking me, I say, if I regret it. Leaving Portland, marrying a farmer, losing all that time trying to hold on to my family. Ethan takes a sip, waits. I don't regret it. I'm sad. I'm sad that I spent years believing I wasn't enough. Sad that I had to draw a line with people I love. But I'd do it all again, every part. He nods. You know what I've learned? Real strength isn't proving you're better than anyone. It's building a life that speaks for itself. And when someone tries to push you through the back door, you don't need to punch through the front. You just go home. To the right home. The field darkens slowly. Fireflies start blinking near the tree line. From inside the house, I hear George washing dishes and humming something I don't recognize. Something old. Something his mother probably sang. Ethan takes my hand. His fingers are rough from work. They always are. I'm Madeline Farrow, I say to no one in particular, to the field, to the sky. As to every woman who was ever made to feel small by the people who were supposed to make her feel tall. I married a farmer, and I have never been more proud of my front door. The stars come out, one by one, like they were waiting for me to finish. If you've ever had to walk away from family to hold on to yourself, I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments, or just type front door so I know you understand. If this story meant something to you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight. And if you want more stories like this one, check the description. I've left some links there for you. Thank you for staying until the end. I'll see you in the next one.